You've tackled the Rook and Bishop and put an end to the Phantom King's reign. You're on the cusp of leaving Tier 1, but are you ready for what comes next? Hey there friends, it's Codiak here, back for a brand new Lost Ark video. Today we're diving in and breaking down everything you need to know about Hildebrandt Palace. When it comes to dungeon guides, we believe that in order for you to be successful, we need to keep things simple and straightforward. Paths up to each major fight will be talked about if there is a particularly difficult mechanic, otherwise most of the focus will simply be on breaking down each boss's respective moveset and core fight mechanics to help you be as successful as possible. Going into this Abyssal Dungeon, we recommend you come prepared with two things. Since this dungeon has some really tight stagger thresholds, we highly recommend you not only have multiple medium to high stagger abilities on your hotbars, but also bring whirlwind grenades. If your party is lacking on any stagger windows, a couple of these will ensure you meet the requirements. There's also a case to be made about bringing swift robes for one of the first boss's mechanics, especially if you're playing on a slower class. With that out of the way, each part of the dungeon will be broken down into chapters below, so feel free to jump around to the section that you need. The first boss, the Phantom Legion Queen, should be super familiar to everyone here that's done the Phantom Palace dungeon. Of course, in Abyssal Dungeons, once familiar bosses get turned up to 11. This encounter in particular will test your awareness during key boss telegraphs as well as party communication. Because of this, let's go over the key mechanics in this encounter to avoid your party wiping. Keep in mind that everything we're talking about here is position related, and you don't really need to worry about any hidden buffs or debuffs. Dark Rotation is probably one of the easiest moves to miss if you aren't looking for it, and doing so will almost certainly kill you. The boss will spawn a massive circular red telegraph divided into 4 slices with one slice empty as a safe spot. While doing so, 2 dark floating orbs will spawn close to the queen and spin away from her, rotating either clockwise or counterclockwise. This motion designates which direction the safe spot is going to move, and be warned, it moves quickly. Your whole party must start in the safe zone, quickly moving to each new rotation before the next pulse. This shockwave does extremely high damage, so you want to be as close to the boss as possible to ensure to make it to each safe slice in time. Slower classes can opt to use that swiftness cloak here to ensure they reach the safe spots each time. The boss can perform this move multiple times per encounter. Her other major mechanic is Dark Wave, and if you've done the regular Phantom Palace dungeon, you'll loosely understand this similar mechanic. The queen will telegraph this move by teleporting to the center of the arena and begin levitating when she's at around both 8 and 5 HP bars remaining. Around the arena, mirrors will spawn with randomized colors. There are always 2 mirrors of the same color, which directly links them as portals. Mirrors will also be in the same location, but the colors will change every time. Your job here is to avoid the dark waves that are moving across the arena, finding the mirror colors that teleport you safely behind the oncoming waves. If you get hit by a wave, it will result in instant death. Be warned, you should generally avoid the purple mirrors, which will always teleport you directly to the center of the arena and will likely get you killed. The rest of the things we'll cover in this boss fight are specific moves, so you know exactly what telegraphs to watch out for and how to deal with specific movesets. One of the most common abilities the Phantom Legion Queen will perform are cone-shaped shockwaves. These will knock any player's hit up in the air and backwards. There are also 2 additional variants of this move, one that sends out 3 shockwaves and one that sends out 4, each with progressively smaller safe zones. These shockwaves are very commonly used after her triple dash, where the boss will dash 3 consecutive times before comboing with an attack. Small note here, try to avoid really fighting towards the edge of the arena so the boss doesn't just keep positioning herself against the edges, as this will make it very difficult to avoid her key mechanics when they happen. The Phantom Legion Queen can also dash backwards, comboing with her conal shockwaves as well. Just know if a dash happens, expect an attack shortly after. At any time, the boss will charge 3 orbs in front of her and send those out in a fan pattern towards a player. These won't do a lot of damage, but they will stagger, canceling your attacks. The Phantom Legion Queen also spawns multiple dark circles at random locations around her at any time. These explode after a short delay and will knock anyone hit by them up into the air. When the boss forms a single orb in front of her and raises both her arms while looking at the player, that signals a line attack of dark geysers, which will be headed towards that player's direction. These will knock the player up and back, which means the closer you are to the boss, the more of these AoEs in a line will hit you. One of the really unique attacks that this boss will perform is denoted by a red aura on a single player at random. After 5 seconds, this aura will spawn 8 orbs that expand outwards from the marked player's location. As the marked player, pay attention to this and move towards the outer edge of the arena to reduce the amount of spheres moving towards your teammates. Last up, once the boss has low HP, she'll begin spawning waves of dark energy similar to her core mechanic that will travel across the map as she performs all of her other attacks. The good thing here is that these will not one-shot you, and they do have small gaps between them that act as safe spots. Simply avoid these while avoiding her other attacks. Stay calm, call out or ping the safe mirror your team should travel through, and hug the boss for her spinning mechanic, and the rest of the fight should just fall into place. Take a breather, gather your thoughts, and get ready to begin the first phase fight against the Mayhem Legion commander, Brelshaza. The good news, this fight has no one-shot or team wipe mechanics. The bad news, there is a huge emphasis on movement skills and positioning here rather than DPS. It's really important everyone understands this. The boss only has one main gimmick, the core mechanic that will likely trip up most groups, so as usual, let's start there. At the 14th and 6th health bar, Brelshaza will teleport herself to the center of the arena and tilt the entire map 45 degrees. When this happens, massive dark boulders will come tumbling down from the top of the ramp and knock any players hit by them towards the rotating blades at the bottom. Some of these boulders will move slowly, others will move fast. If you have multiple of these in your path to safety, try and stay in front of the slower moving ones to allow the faster ones to pass by quickly. After this mechanic is underway, a red mark will eventually spawn below a random player. This player needs to make their way towards the boss and remain close to her because 5 seconds after the mark appears, a meteor will descend towards the marked player. In order to restore this stage to its flat form and end the mechanic, the meteor needs to hit Brelshaza. If you get knocked away and miss, don't worry, the mechanic will happen again and again until you successfully hit the boss. If you have any time stop potions or have your awakening ability up, you can use these while next to the boss if you're about to get hit to avoid missing the meteor. Now let's get into Brelshaza's general attack patterns, which will all carry over into Phase 2 once we get to that portion of the video. The boss has a basic teleport ability that allows her to reposition and deal low damage to any player too close to her when she appears. You can avoid this and know where she's moving to by following her health bar to the new location. At random times in random locations, Brelshaza will spawn somewhat small circles that after a short delay will explode and knock anyone caught by them up into the air. The boss will also periodically have large orbs travel towards her in a straight line from each cardinal direction. Once these reach her, they will shift 45 degrees and be sent out to the ends of the arena. Additionally, the boss can send out a single smaller sphere towards a player that will travel slowly, then split into 4 smaller shards after traveling a short distance. These cause low damage but do stagger. Following the sphere theme, Brelshaza will spawn multiple spheres that begin to circle above her head. She will then release these spheres in 2 separate waves towards random locations. The first wave will target a faraway distance, while the second will hit near the boss. Avoid these for moderate damage as well as knockback. Also make sure you pay attention to the floor. Periodically, the boss will summon a dark trail attack directly in front of her, then after a short delay will spawn thorns, dealing damage and knocking players up hit into the air. Dream Cage is probably the most frustrating move Brelshaza has access to. At random locations in random directions, the boss will spawn illusions of herself that after a really short duration will emit a frontal cone shockwave that imprisons any player's hit. The prison will dissipate after 3 seconds, or you can attack your teammate to free them. Keep in mind this attack can be deadly in combination with her other AoE abilities. Last up, and probably our favorite move of hers, is called Light Explosion. Brelshaza will charge up a large AoE cone in front of her that after a mild build-up time will emit light spheres that explode in a counterclockwise pattern. It's a visually cool move, but also one that can do great damage in conjunction with her other attacks. If you can coordinate with your team well enough here to get past the stage gimmick and chip away at her health bar, congratulations, you've earned yourself a small break and a checkpoint before heading into her much more difficult Phase 2. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all of Brelshaza's attacks carry over to Phase 2, but she also gets some new attacks, and some also get upgraded. Her Dark Trail attack is one of the abilities that now has 3 additional variants. Paths of dark energy will periodically spawn in vertical slices across the arena. As these move around, make sure to move out of their impact zones. The line attack gets an even more deadly front cone variant that begins spawning dark thorns from the center and works their way out to the edges. She can also form a multi-ring set of puddles around her that after a short delay will cause thorns to erupt from all rings at the same time. Her Light Explosion attack also gets upgraded to now spawn a cone in the front and behind her, still exploding counterclockwise. Of course, there's also some new mechanics at play as well. Brelshaza has a few new ones, and all of them are quite annoying. Isolation will have the boss summon a giant outer ring that isolates players on the outside and inside of the ring, and touching the ring will deal continuous damage over time. The real kicker with this ability is that the ring will shrink over time, giving you less room to work with, making the fight a lot more hectic. One new ability that contributes to that is her Dark Portals. Randomly, 4 Dark Portals will appear and aim towards a specific player. After a short delay, huge crystal-like objects fly out of each portal and deal high damage to everything in their path. Finally, Brelshaza will cast a purple AoE on each player that will collapse after exactly 5 seconds. The key here is to move to the edges of the arena, because after 5 seconds, each AoE will collapse and remain stationary. These do sizable damage, so watch out for them. Now we need to talk about 2 separate wipe mechanics, both of which occur twice within the fight. The first one is purely a stagger check that requires you to have your highest stagger skills on cooldown or utilize those whirlwind grenades we mentioned before. At both her 34th and 26th HP bar, the boss will cover herself in a magical dome to prevent herself from getting crushed, and it's here that if your party fails to destroy the shield in time with high stagger abilities, the boss will wipe your entire party. Visually, it's an awesome part of the fight, but also one of the most difficult stagger checks you've likely faced up to this point. The second mechanic is just as frustrating as everything else so far, and it's what is referred to as Enlighten the Darkness. The first time you encounter this mechanic will be at the 16th HP bar. A random party member will be surrounded by a light aura and have 3 black orbs displayed above their heads. The remaining 3 players will receive beacons of light that emit in a straight line. These lines need to point towards and touch the player who has the 3 black orbs above their head, so it's crucial that player remains stationary. Players will have 10 seconds to correctly complete this mechanic. If done properly, the 3 black orbs will be lit and everyone can run out of the giant impact AoE caused by an incoming meteor. If a single player fails to do this mechanic correctly, everyone is instead imprisoned and pulled towards that player who had the 3 black orbs, leading to a wipe. Now this mechanic is also repeated at the 8th HP bar as well, but there is one exception. One player will instead have a giant circle form behind them. This player must orient themselves directly away from the player with the 3 dark orbs in order to have that giant circle be placed beneath the player with the 3 dark orbs. The other 2 players will point their beacons of light as normal. Once again, successfully do this and evacuate the meteor impact area. From here, it becomes a simple race to burn the boss's remaining HP down, but there are no additional surprise mechanics. Master the 2 stagger checks, focus more on mechanics and less about overall DPS, and learn to point a light beam correctly and you should be fine. Brelshaza should fall after this point and award you with the necessary materials to craft either of the new sets at the end of Tier 1. Hopefully this guide has helped you effectively tackle each encounter and boss that this dungeon has to throw at you. These are effectively raid mechanics, and things only ramp up in difficulty from here. Of course, guys, you're now ready to tackle Hildebrandt Palace to snag your new gear set and be on your way to Tier 2 content. If you have any questions at all, be sure to leave us a comment below. We've been having a blast making Lost Ark content, and we love interacting with you all in the comment section. If you're on US East Regulus or want to join the largest Lost Ark community in North America, we invite you to join Legacy Gaming. With now 30 guilds across our entire community and hundreds of people online every minute of every day, it's a great place to learn the ropes, meet new friends, and support the channel all in one fell swoop. Check out the link below to join today. Finally, if you guys like everything we're doing here at Legacy Gaming and you want to support the channel even more, you can do so by becoming a member. For just a couple bucks, you're helping Livid and I achieve our dreams of becoming full-time content creators. Check out the join button below to learn more. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.